Chrissy, this is from you.
Welcome back to the TV Corner, everybody. Today we are talking about Stranger Things Season 4. Stranger Things Season 4 follows the group in, funny enough, 4 separate different groups as they take on a new villain in the Upside Down named Vecna. So I know Stranger Things ended a little while ago, but I did want to get this out because I am going to be doing the first 3 seasons worth of reviews when Season 5 comes out in like a million years. But I did want to do this one because it did just come out and I have a lot of thoughts about it because I think it is the craziest season that we've had so far. So if you know anything about Stranger Things, you know that it is wildly complicated and have a lot of things going on. So instead of doing highs and lows, I'm just going to go through each group and each person because that's pretty much where all of my comments and thoughts are going to be, is with the characters. Just a spoiler warning, this is a spoiler review. I am going to be talking about everything that happened in this season because I figured either you've watched it or you're not planning on watching it. Starting off with the first group, the Russia unit. Does anybody actually care about this group? I know it's bad to say, but like I think it is definitely the least interesting of them, and only because it's about the Russians. I mean, I don't know if you got this from Season 3 like I did, but I just didn't really care about the Russians, and I thought they were kind of goofy. I don't know. That's a whole other thing I can get into. But this one, I think, at least made it a little bit more interesting because obviously Hopper is alive. And I did find the way that he got out of being vaporized maliciously a little simple. But I was like, I guess. he just dove out of the way, but like I guess, if there was that option. I don't know why the other people in the room didn't do that. But I think they did make it as interesting as they could have, and it was, I think, the most realistic, of the plots, because, I mean, obviously, this still has to do with supernatural stuff, but it is just him in this camp and trying to escape. It's a very realistic, very gritty subplot, and it was pretty suspenseful at points. Plus, we get the new character, Enzo, who I think was pretty cool. You didn't know, obviously, at first if he was going to be cool or not, but he was. Of course, maybe there will be a moment in the next season where he just takes off his face and he's an entirely different person, and he's like a spy or something. For those of you who don't get that reference, it's from Game of Thrones. He played a character, has many faces, and I swear to God, my humor's not getting weird. Of course, we get Murray back. God, love Murray. Oh my God, I love him. There's not really much I can say about him. I mean, he does kick some ass with his Tai Chi or Kung Fu or whatever it was, but God love Murray. I think he's going to be fine in the next season. I don't think he's going to die because he's Murray, And then last but not least, we have Joyce, who is obviously the main initiator in going to get Hopper. I think in this one, she's just as badass as all the other ones, and I like how she's kind of badass in a really screwed up way. Like, she doesn't necessarily have a ton of skills or anything, but, like, she's just able to, like, mom boss everybody around, which I think is really funny. But now we get to play what will be my new favorite game for Stranger Things. What's on Joyce's wall? To recap, in the first season, it was Christmas lights. In the second season, it was Will's drawings. And in the third season, it was magnets. And in the fourth season, Hopper! Obviously, Joyce and Hopper kind of get together in this one, and I think that was a really, really great moment because in the last one, they sort of were getting there, but it didn't quite happen just yet, and, after all this time apart and thinking that he was dead, it was a really nice moment. Our next group is what I'm going to call the bum unit. Why? Because, let's be honest, a lot of them are kind of bums for most of the season. Let's start off with Jonathan. Man, he really went downhill a little bit, but then he came back, so it's fine. He definitely was a lot more of a bum this season for a lot of it, but I will say that even then, he still did a lot, And I really think that they not redeemed it, because obviously this was probably the whole point the whole time, but at the end, it really, really made that speech that he has with Will, that talk about I'm still always going to be here for you, so much better. Because obviously, yeah, things were going to happen in that year, that people grow apart and things got weird and different. But I think that made it really great, because it was kind of that reminder that, yeah, he's still his older brother from season 1 who really cared about him and wanted to find him. And he's always going to be there for him. And I think that heart that Jonathan has, I think that was really good that they brought that back, because I was going to be a little worried. And then you obviously have new character Argyle, who is also a bum, but a lot cooler. And that's his whole point, actually. I feel like in the next season, he's just going to kind of walk through all of the fights and just kind of be there. Like, I don't think anybody ever said to him, hey, this thing's going on, you have to help us fight. He just kind of went with it. I think this was just a weird day for him. And then there's Mike. And you all know how I feel about Mike. But Mike is so fucking annoying. But admittedly, I will say, he's a little bit better in this season. Yes, he still starts out pretty annoyingly and pretty terrible at the beginning of the season. But then there's the moment when he talks to Ellen. He gets real with her about, you know that I've been bullied as well. And I was like, thank God. The writers finally gave him some depth for a bit instead of just being annoying. So yeah, no, I was really happy. And then for the rest of the season, he was just he didn't do a whole lot, but he was fine. You know, he at least was a little nicer generally, and he had a little bit more depth in terms of just talking about himself and what he's gone through. So I thought that was better. Speaking of what people have gone through, Will, my God. This man is really here this entire series just to feel and be sad and have really cathartic talks. He is definitely the emotional crux of the series, and I'm really here for it, because honestly, while a lot of people make fun about it, I just want him to be happy. I don't care. If we have a character who his whole thing is just to be figuring out life and his purpose in it, I'm okay with it, because his whole purpose the first season was to literally not exist. So yeah, I just want him to be happy. And yes, he cries a lot, but who doesn't? I will say though, the memes. On to the next group, the L unit. So this one is, I mean, I guess less of a group and more of just the other subplot, because it really is mostly just 11. I think that her not having powers in this one was really interesting, because it brought up that question of, you know, not what is she good for, but like, she's always had the power. She's always been the one, especially in season 3, who like, anytime there was a problem, she could just kind of deal with it. But without her powers, it's like, well, what is she like? What's her character? What is she gonna do? You know, is she gonna feel bad about it? Obviously, she did. She feels like she's either a monster or useless. And I think that having the whole subplot of Hopper being gone too really helped bring that emotion out in her, because up to this point I was like, okay, I like 11, but I also think that at times she's just kind of a tool for the plot instead of like an actual character. So in this one, it was really great to see her have those emotions, especially in the beginning with Angela, who, side note, I just want to say, if you ever have experienced bullying like that, you're loved. You know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna take this just because it really pissed me off. And I'm not saying that what happened to Angela was deserved. Don't do that. But for real, bullying directly, but also the loneliness of it, is possibly like one of the worst things that can ever happen to a person. So you are loved. People are happy that you are here. There's always somebody that you can talk to. And if you've ever bullied someone, just take a minute to, or if you're actively bullying someone, take a minute to think about that, because it's pretty fucking awful. So anyway, so it was great that Elle got to have this subplot. I really think it was funny that Dr. Owens came in and was just like, oh, that whole thing, no, we're gonna get rid of that. That's really funny. But it was cool that he came in and was like, we're gonna get you your powers back, and that was this whole thing. And the flashbacks of what she went through the first time and how this whole thing really worked, this whole program, because we never really got to see it. And I think it was really cool seeing all these flashbacks, these tests that they went through, everything, and how she excelled at it, the things that she went through, the Rainbow Room with this game. It was all really, really cool. But obviously, the biggest part of the flashbacks was the fact that Jamie Campbell Bower was number one.
He was number one!
He was number one, Henry Creel, and he is Vecna. It's the whole thing is very, very interesting. I was actually talking to a few friends of mine who said that they were watching the season, and they were like joking around like, oh, I bet he's number one, and I bet he's Vecna. What? But I thought it was really, really cool how they tied all this together, because when I saw the season trailer and saw that, you know, Vecna was a thing, I was like, okay, so there's this new creature, but like it seems like they're kind of going in a weird different direction, like just some other person, other creature in the Upside Down. Is it going to connect at all? And I'm glad that it did. And not only connected, but brought everything full circle. I think it's super cool how all of this is now explained, how the Upside Down not began, because obviously it was already there, but how we were introduced to it and why things have been happening the way they're happening and who's been behind it this whole time. And let me just say, if you don't already know, Jamie Campbell Bower, that's not CGI. That's prosthetics. He had to get into that and out of that every single day. And also, that's his real voice. He just does that.
I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I'm impressed and concerned. And just the fact that he was able to convey emotions with just how his face looked is... Jamie Campbell Bower is a very underrated actor. Seriously. Well, maybe not now. I think he's going to be a very rated actor. Also, props to Millie Bobby Brown and the little actress who played young Elle. I will get her name and put it here. I didn't think to get it, but I will get her name because both of them did a really, really great job. Millie Bobby Brown on the directing side of the character, and then also the younger actress on actually playing her. And then real quick, obviously Dr. Owens is awesome. I don't think that he's a bad person at all. I think he's always been a good person, but like he was part of this program, couldn't get out of it, had to do what he had to do, but wanted to help as much as he could. And then in this one, it's like, well, why are you bringing her back to this? But it's like one of those things where it's like, do we really have a choice? You know, it's like the end of the world. But obviously, once it wasn't working, he was trying to help her. He was trying to defend her and get her out of there as well. So, no, he's awesome. I love him. Brenner's back. We all thought he was dead. How is he not dead? And where's he been this entire time? I thought that was a little unexplained. But it was a really cool surprise. And, you know, obviously it doesn't matter now. But I think it was a really, really great moment for her character to fully reject him to his face without it just being that he died, and move on even stronger now. But I just want to say that actually I think that he is one of the most interestingly written characters, and Matthew Modine plays him so well because he's awful. We know that. But there are times when you're like, he genuinely cares for her, I think. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he does in his own twisted way. And also that he knows that this is something that really needs to happen. And obviously it's like he's more obsessed with her that he wants to keep her, but he makes good points about why she shouldn't be leaving just yet. You know, it's like, I feel like his intentions are awful, but he's got a point sometimes. Okay, on to the final group, what I call the cool table unit. And this is because this is the table that if you had to pick out of these four groups who you want to be with, obviously you're going to want to be with the one that has Steve and Nancy and Dustin. This is a great group. I love that most of the main characters are in this group. A lot of them are split up in the season for pretty much the whole season. I think that's the first time that's really ever happened, that even at the end they were split up. Okay, Robin, I thought she was, after rewatching season 3, I thought she was a little bit amped up on the quirkiness and the annoyingness. I still love Robin, but I think they did that to kind of contrast her with Nancy. And while I think that was great because, you know, they all become best friends and they all accept each other for who they are and everything else, she wasn't like that in season 3. Season 3, she was a little bit more sarcastic and a little bit, I don't want to say cooler, but she wasn't as frantic. So I think that they kind of did that on purpose. And I would have liked to have some sassy Robin in there a little bit more, but she's still great. Obviously, you have Steve and Nancy, who it is quite obvious that they're trying to put them back together, which I never thought would actually happen. But it's weird because Jonathan, he's great. I said he was a bum, but again, it was just there was a lot of things going on in that last year, and I don't know. I'm really curious to see where they're going to go with it, but I think they are going to try to put Nancy and Steve back together. Of course, I think one of the three of them is probably going to die, which will just make it really awkward. But let me know in the comments below, are you a Nancy and Steve ship or a Nancy and Jonathan ship? Like a John Nancy or a Snance?
Snance.
And I do love that they kind of acknowledged Steve's character arc and how he was an asshole and then transformed into this dad? No. Mom. Lucas, I think, also had probably his best season so far because the first 3 seasons, he hasn't had actually as much to do, I don't think. I mean, he had his slingshot, so that was pretty cool. That was pretty specific to him. But this one, he really grew up and really had a big part to play with the whole jocks thing, which... Jason. Sucks, man. Sucks. And the weird thing is like, if it was any other show, he would actually kind of have a point, It's like some bad stuff's going on in this town. Let's rally everybody to go get it. But it was his attitude and the fact that he was pointing to all these other people who he thought it might be because of certain biases and things like that. Then he gets cut in half. It's terrible to say it like that, but I don't care. Of course, we have Dustin. What else can I say about Dustin? He's amazing. And this one, he's pretty much he's still Dustin. He's even more badass, I think, because he takes a lot more of a leadership role in this one because he's connected to a lot more things. And then you have Max, who I think, out of the original people in the group, was the most beloved this season. She had a lot going on, and Sadie Sink did an amazing job portraying all of this. The fact that they almost killed her was really, really dark. Because she's like, what, supposed to be like 15, 16, something like that? I don't know. But yeah, I love Max, especially more after this season. I already did, but I love her even more for this season because, my God, I just... The sarcastic face.
Really? Everyone gets a t-shirt. We make them ourselves. And if you're being sarcastic.
And then there's somebody else I'm forgetting. There's somebody else. Who is it? Oh, yeah.
Eddie!
I think it was wholly unnecessary. Just saying. I think the writers didn't plan to do it. And then they saw how much we wanted to save them. And then said a big old screw you to the audience. I think it's really interesting how quickly people turned around on Eddie. My mom and I both, but my mom especially, when we first watched it, and we saw him at that table, we were like, he looks so old, and he's not supposed to be in school. And we were also like, wow, he's a lot. He's really kind of annoying. And I'm like, I don't know. Something seems a little off about him. But then very quickly you're like, wait a minute. He's so precious. I love Eddie so much. Without going on too long about it, Eddie was fucking amazing. Really, really funny. I loved everything that Joe Quinn did with him, his portrayal of him. And I loved the Steve and Dustin versus Eddie and Dustin thing. And I saw this one meme that was like, Steve's like the mom and Eddie's like the dad, and they're like handing the child off to each other. It's really funny. And it's true. Obviously, he does die. And I think that it was kind of unnecessary. Not necessarily, because I know it's like, even if it was expected, if it was part of the story, it's part of the story. But I think it was unnecessary because I feel like they could have had the moment of him not running away, but not have him die, because it just felt like, okay, sure, yeah, that's pretty obvious that was going to happen, but I don't know, I just think it was a little too extreme. I don't think it needed to happen. I felt he was like the biggest new person to come back that could have stayed in the group for at least the last season. So I'm not sure how I felt about it because it just seemed a little unnecessary and like they were just doing it for the tears and the sad reacts. But who knows? You know, maybe he'll come back somehow in the 5th season. I know there's this theory that there's some sort of vampire thing and he's a vampire's assistant or intern or whatever, and that, you know, maybe he'll, now that he's down there, he'll be able to kind of turn and help them. Justice for Eddie. Rip Eddie. Hashtag Hellfire Club. And in talking about Max and Eddie, of course, I can't talk about the season and not bring up the fact that it was so influential that they are now not one, but 2 songs that have become fan favorites that were never mentioned ever before. Metallica's Master of Puppets and Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill. Master of Puppets, Metallica, obviously, I think people know Metallica, but maybe they didn't know Master of Puppets, and they definitely did not have an appreciation for that song as they do now. And then Kate Bush, who even knew who Kate Bush was? You know, no, I don't think anybody had ever heard that song if you didn't actually grow up in the 80s. And now it's like number 1. Don't tell me that TV shows do not have an effect, do not have an influence on things, because, my God, after the Queen's Gambit, people were searching chess left and right. And now these songs are getting so much more traction, and these artists are getting so much more money. With that said, don't be a gatekeeper, okay? Just, it's not cool. And finally, I just want to talk about the ending, especially like the last episode. It's like basically a movie-length episode. But yeah, so I did my reaction for it, and funny enough, I really loved it up until I started my reaction for it. And then as soon as I did that, after that, obviously a lot of things happened, but I kind of felt like it was petering out a little bit. It felt kind of safe. In parts, it felt like it didn't amp up to the expectations that we had for it. And obviously, again, expectations isn't necessarily the writer's faults, but like it felt like a lot of the things didn't have as many consequences. No, I can't even say that. I don't know. It felt a little odd here and there. Specifically when they were trying to like kill Vecna, like Steve and Robin and Nancy. It was like, why just cut his head off or something? Why are you throwing, you know, flames at him and shooting? Cut his head off. It felt like they definitely left it open for him to come back, which obviously is going to be the case. But there were parts here that I was like, okay, it was okay. It felt a little safe, felt a little quick to be wrapped up, whatever. But it definitely did have consequences. You know, the more I think about it, obviously. Max is in a coma, and that's probably worse than her dying, because if she wakes up, which she probably will, her life's gonna suck. Obviously, Eddie dies. And then, of course, we get the actual Upside Down coming right side up, I guess, which I have to say is one of the coolest scenes that they have ever had in that show. And by God, the music.
Chills. Literal chills.
Also, one last note, I think it was really cool how, you know, every season they have a couple different guest stars as characters, and they have sort of like homages to, you know, 80s movies specifically, and this one being Friday the 13th, I thought was awesome, considering the fact that it's people sort of in this dream world, and, you know, they get killed in basically these trances or dreams, and how they had Robert Englund. They had Robert Englund guest star as well, who obviously plays Freddy Krueger. So I thought that was a really, really cool thing to do. So yeah, I could continue to talk about a bunch of the stuff in this season because there's so much that goes into it. But I'm going to be able to talk about that more when I do my other reviews for seasons 1, 2, and 3, because I'll get to talk about those a little bit more. I don't know if I'm going to do separate videos on them or if I'm going to do a ranking, because obviously, as you've already seen, this is going to be like 25 minutes or something. And I could probably just do that for every single season. But that would be just so long. But yeah, when season 5 comes out, I will be doing those so I can talk a little bit more about, you know, Stranger Things overall and the types of things that they do in every season that just makes it the best show. I just wanted to talk about specifically the season 4 stuff in this video and how everything is kind of tying together. But overall, I thought that season 4 was really fun. I think after the series ends, seasons 1 and 2 will still be my favorite. I mean, disregarding how season 5 is But I think seasons 1 and 2 will still be my favorite because I do like the smaller, tighter feel to it. But for now, while we're actually in it, season 4 was awesome because there was so much. It's a cool build-up, and it really set up what is going to be happening in season 5, and I think that they're all going to be together almost the whole time for this one, so I'm really excited for it. I thought it was the darkest one we've had so far, the creepiest one we've had so far, the one with the most stakes. I don't know if it was the most emotional. It might have been the most emotional. No, yeah, it was the most emotional. I mean, everybody just gave their all in this, and I'm really excited for them too in season 5, and I'm excited for it to get back to Will as the guy who is the crux of all of this. I'm going to give Stranger Things Season 4 a 3.5 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of Stranger Things Season 4. There is a lot to talk about. And let me know how excited you are for Season 5. Also, let me know if you are a Steve and Nancy or Jonathan and Nancy person. And let me know who you predict may die in Season 5. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and justice for Eddie. I'll see you guys later.
Prissy, wake up!